You know, we just wrapped up a 3-part series called Selection, where we reviewed and talked about how Christ selected his disciples, that most important decision. And, you know, I didn't plan it this way, but here we are. I find myself on the eve of another presidential election, and I just find that the topic of my messages are a bit ironic given the circumstances we find ourselves in the country. As we sit, I'm a couple of days away from actually casting my own vote, and while I'm going to spare you on who I vote for, I think most of you that know me probably know where I'm going to fall on this particular election, and it's not up to me to lecture you on what you ought to think and how you ought to decide, and I promise not to do that. But I will leave you with this. My prayer tonight is for our nation. You see, what I observe is that on both sides we feel like we're absolutely on the correct side. Most of us are convinced of this. So much so that we're intolerable when we even consider the other person who might have a differing view from our own. We look at the other side sometimes in bewilderment, wondering how anyone could possibly support that position, that policy, or that candidate. What could they be thinking? My prayer tonight isn't for my candidate to win. I feel that decision is ultimately in God's hands anyway, win or lose in this election. I believe that they're all part of a much larger plan that God has for his design for America. I believe he's in control of all of this. Tonight and really all of this week, what I'm actually going to be praying for is peace and love among us. I pray that if your candidate wins or loses in this election, that you at least realize that you are a child of God and that you are loved more by him than you will ever be able to understand in your life. And I also want you to remember that he commanded us. Jesus commanded all of us to love one another. It is the greatest commandment as he defined it. And yes, we're to love even those who will be voting differently than we do in this election. Peace and love are commands from him. They're not just recommendations. He does this throughout Scripture, but he speaks it most clearly in Matthew 22, verses 37 through 39, where it says, "And Jesus replied, 'Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind.' This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." You see, I understand that this election, like so many of them, will evoke emotion, an emotional response by the supporters on both sides. But my prayer is that no matter what the result is on Tuesday or whenever it is that we learn this outcome of this election, that we will remain civil toward one another, that we will love our neighbors, and remember that we are all Americans and should be thankful that we live in this United States of America after all. We can't control what other people do, but we can control ourselves. We can control our own response. We can control how we treat others. And I pray that we all can remember to exercise that most important commandment of loving our neighbor, even those that may disagree with us. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Go vote. Exercise your civil duty. So listen, thanks for joining. I look forward to catching up with you soon and bringing another message your way. Have a great week.